there, it's Katie from Health, Wellness, and Chocolate, and you are listening to the Health, Wellness, and Chocolate podcast, which is Weight Loss for Busy Moms. I'm Katie Corbett, and I'm here to help you with all things weight loss for busy moms. This month is February when I'm recording this, and so every month I try to have a theme for the podcast, and this month I figured would be perfect for relationships. So today I wanted to talk about relationships and how they affect you on your weight loss journey. But the number one relationship I wanted to focus on for the purpose of this podcast would be the relationship you have with yourself. And we're going to take a deep dive into what that looks like. Now, this isn't like woo, self-love kind of weirdo stuff. This is a lot of the premise that I do is based on your thoughts. And so this is a relationship you have with yourself, your future self, like who you can envision yourself becoming and how you need to really envision that before you even start your weight loss journey so that you have something to work towards. But then also, you need to have a relationship with the past version of yourself so that you can understand where you're coming from. You understand the thoughts you have, you understand the beliefs you have, and you can go back and really evaluate them and think like, okay, why do I think this way? What is it about me that does this? Why do I react this way to certain situations? Understanding and having a relationship with your past self is almost like a gateway to get you to understand how you got to where you are right now. And then, of course, evaluating your current self and your needs and what those look like and how are you going to get them met and who in your life is draining you and all those things. So we're going to kind of deep dive into those three different aspects of yourself. And I hope when you are done with this podcast, you spend some time alone with all three versions of yourself and really do some thought work, because by now, hopefully, and if you've spent enough time with me, most of the weight loss happens inside your brain. And you can follow a diet and follow an eating pattern for a certain amount of time, but eventually your brain is going to kind of override most of your efforts. And so my job is to teach you about your brain and teach you how you relate to it. And then that way you're able to approach how you lose weight from a different angle, and you're actually able to lose weight for the last time, because it's really, nourishing food is important to eat, but more than that, it's really what's going on inside your brain and how you are behaving and how you're acting and all those things. That's actually what is the most impactful when it comes to sustained weight loss. So that is why I'm going to spend some time talking about this today. So if you have a paper and pen handy and you can take notes, that would be awesome. If not, you can always, think about what I'm talking about and then maybe go back at a quiet time in your day and write down some of these prompts that I'm going to give you to work through. The first one I want to talk about is your future self. Now, when you start any weight loss journey, I think we always think we might think of ourselves in the future and imagine what we'd look like as thin. I want to take that idea, though, and go a little bit deeper, because when it comes to improving our health, I want you to really think of the advantages that will come up because you have decided to take time to invest in your health and wellness now for the benefit of the person that you want to be in the future. So what is your ideal self like? What is she doing? Who is she spending time with? What kind of relationships does she have? Is she a pushover? Is she an overworker still? Is she in control, or is she still out of control? Is she really shy? Is she a really good friend? Does she have the right boundaries? Does she know herself well enough to say yes or no to certain situations? And I was listening to another podcast, and it was just a mom podcast, but one of the things the woman said was, if you find you're overscheduling yourself a lot, it tends to be when you overschedule, it's really rooted in insecurity. And I do find that to be true for so many people. We think that being busy and keeping our schedules full is a mark of importance, or like we have purpose when we are overscheduled and over busy. I want you to think of the future version of yourself. Are you insecure? Are you comfortable in your own skin? Are you overscheduled and over busy? Or do you know exactly who you are, where you're going? You live a life of purpose, but it's definitely not overscheduled and over busy. Okay, I want you to consider all those things. And then write them all down. Try not to censor yourself in this area. Just write down all the thoughts that you come up when you envision your future self. And you can get very detailed if you want. Like the future version of myself, I'm at my ideal weight. My hair is nice and long. I'm in someplace warm, and I have flip-flops on and a really pretty cute dress, and my toes have a pedicure, and I'm taking really good care of myself, and I'm able to skip around and jump with my kids because I don't have that extra 50 pounds on me. All those things. I really want you to get as detailed as you possibly could and really daydream about that future version of yourself. And then I want you to get as specific as you can, because what I want you to do is start having a relationship with her. And what they found was, when you can imagine a future version of yourself in a concrete way, you actually do develop a relationship with them as you would with a relationship with another person. And this is important because when you're in the trenches of improving your health and you're in the trenches of weight loss, one of the hardest things to do in the moment is to not cave into the cravings and not cave into the desires that we have, but stick with the word we kept to ourselves and say, no, I'm going to lose this weight, and I'm not going to indulge in whatever it is that you might want to be tempted to indulge in. And they found that if you can envision a concrete version of your future self, it's almost like the relationship to that person becomes more concrete, and then you're really kind of keeping your word to that person. And this tool can especially be helpful for you if you tend to be like a people pleaser, or let's say you're a total rock star at work and you always keep your word to your boss. You always do exactly what your boss expects you to do. But when it comes to keeping your word to yourself, you're always cheating on your diet, or you're always going back on your word to yourself, or you're always saying like, oh, you know what, it doesn't matter. I'll just do it tomorrow, or, I'll have to put myself on the back burner. I'm not going to worry about this right now. Right. Like, but if someone else called you up and said, hey, I need help. Do you have time for X, Y, and Z? You would always make time for this other person. Well, they found that if you can consider the future version of yourself as if it was another person, right, and kind of have a concrete conception of that other person, you can actually begin to adapt that habit of like keeping your word to that person, which would be the future version of yourself. And hopefully you've spent enough time with me now to understand like who you are in the future. You need to start behaving like that person now in order to get to that point. So you need to start keeping your word to yourself now and behaving as if you were that future version of yourself in order to reach it. Okay, because your actions and how you behave now create the results that you want in your life. And if the result that you want in your life is this future version of yourself, then you need to start doing what the future version of yourself is already doing. Okay, so hopefully that didn't sound too confusing, but you really need to start behaving as if you were that future person already. And so by identifying who they are and how you want to behave, and how you think that person acts and feels and does. So like the future version of yourself, is she still going through drive-thrus and overeating and grabbing fries, even though she knows it's not good for her? Probably not, right? So think of the future self that you want to be, and then start and really write down all the ways that all the details of her, and then start thinking about very seriously what you have to do, how you have to act right now in order to be that future self. And it's kind of along the lines too of like, if you're looking for that promotion, you show up for the job you want, right? Not the job you currently have. It's the same thing. You're going to show up for the person you want to be, not the person you currently are. And now I want to talk to you real quick about your past self, okay? Who you were last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? The past version of you. The beliefs that you had then are what have you are living in the results of the past self, all right? And so what I want you to do is, what do you think of the past version of yourself? Do you have regrets? Can you come to peace with them? Can you forgive the past version of yourself, maybe for making decisions that didn't really work out the way you wanted them to? And understand that the past version of you made those decisions based on the best information that they had at the time. You know, there's a saying, hindsight is always 20/20, and I don't think that totally is the same here, okay? The decisions you've made then were based on the best information and the best choices that you thought you had at that time. So can you forgive yourself for decisions that you made in the past and let them go? And then also, I want you to start thinking about beliefs that you have about yourself based on the past version of you that you still currently live in. What I mean by that is, like, you can say, well, I'm just a fat person. So that, that's just who I am. My family is all overweight and we're just big people, and that's just who I am. I'm just an overeater. I don't feel full ever, or, that's just who I am. You could take it a different way too. Like maybe finances are always something that causes you stress, and the stress causes you to overeat. And you can say, well, maybe a belief about yourself is like, I'm just bad with money. I don't know how to handle money, or I just can't find a good job that pays me well, and so I'm always stressed, and that's why, I always overeat. Where you can, like, maybe a belief about yourself is like, oh, I'm just a hot mess. Maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you always just feel like you're a hot mess, and the house is always chaotic, and, that's just who you are. You just always have to deal with the urgency of situations instead of being proactive in your life. And so these are beliefs that you have about yourself. So what I want you to do is take time to sit down and think about the past version of you. And are there things that come up for you that maybe there's a root of bitterness inside of you? Like, oh, why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have moved, or I shouldn't have made that decision, or, I shouldn't have done this or that. Like, we spend a lot of time in shouldn't, and we shouldn't do that. But, you need to be able to come to peace with the past version of yourself and understand who she is, because you need to know, like, you're living in the consequences of that past version of you, right? You have created the current results you have in your life based on the past version of yourself. So you need to pay attention to the beliefs that you have, because if you don't, what happens is you'll just continue to create the same results that you've had. So if you're not paying attention to the past version of you and the results that you've created, you'll always create the same results because you're not aware of them. But if you can begin to become aware of the decisions you make, the beliefs you have about yourself, anything that comes up for you, then you can start to pay attention to it and then work out strategies on how you want to change and tweak. And then once you come up with those, you can really, like, consider the future version of you, okay? And say, oh, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep believing I'm a hot mess, because my future self is not a hot mess. She's got her act together. So what do I have to do in order to become that future version of myself? Maybe if you're a housewife and you feel like you're in constant chaos, maybe the action step you need to take is to get a book on housekeeping and put your home in order first, because the future version of yourself has a home that's organized and tidy. And maybe that's where you need to start. Or maybe you need to get on a budget and learn how to manage money, right? Any belief that you have about yourself, you need to understand that any disadvantage or any knowledge that you don't know can be learned. And so any habits that you have can be changed. Any kind of belief or any kind of behavior, everything is changeable, right? We have this growth mindset where we know we're able to learn. We know we're able to change. It just takes intention and maybe some focused work, but it's not impossible, okay? And so you need to really start paying attention to how you behave and the who and the why of yourself in order to make those changes in your life. And so the last part is, right, so we've talked about our future self, we've talked about our past self, so now let's talk about our future self. And again, I want you to do some thought work on this. So first, I want you to consider your needs. What are they? What relationships are there that you have that are lacking? Recently, I had a very close friend of mine pass away. She left behind 10 children who the youngest is 2 years old. She was only 47. She did have COVID and she passed away because she had an underlying heart condition that they weren't aware of. But COVID actually brought to the surface this heart condition. And then she did wind up passing away after only a few days of having it. And so it was very tragic, very, very tragic, very, very sad time. And one of my other very good friends is really grappling right now with her loss. And she's saying, I feel like, she was the one I would go to for friendship, for that cup of tea, for that encouragement. And my advice to her, and it's the same advice I'm going to give you, is, figure out what are your needs, especially in relationships, since this is February and that's what we're talking about. What are your relationship needs? There is never going to be one person in your life that is going to be able to meet all the needs that you have. And so it's important to find people that can help you meet the needs that you have that are beyond you. So obviously, you're responsible for meeting your needs, but there are people in your life, obviously friendship, you can't meet the friendship need all by yourself, right? But you need to be able to identify what your needs are. So maybe, for me, some of my relationship needs are, I want a friend that I can talk about homeschool mom stuff with. Homeschooling tends to be somewhat isolating at times. And, you really, it is a weird anomaly where they're home all the time. And I think some moms have gotten a taste of this because of COVID. And I like having my kids home all the time. I like having our own schedule. But there is a little bit of, of a marathon feeling, where it's just the days are kind of long. And, it's nice to have moms who understand that and know where you're coming from. And so one of my needs is to have a community of moms around me that are in the trenches with me that kind of get it. And another need would be a mentor mom, someone who's been through it, who's come out the other side successful, and that can kind of speak encouragement into your day, especially in the month of February when it's cold out and, the kids are cooped up most of the day and the days are short. And so, you miss those afternoon play times at the park or being outside. And so a mentor mom will help, speak life into you and be able to get you through. So that's a need that I have. And another need I have is I love to teach. So starting this podcast was one way to get that need met, for me to be able to connect with people and teach them, but also in real life, being able to have maybe younger moms than me that are just starting out on their journey and need that encouragement and wonder oh my goodness, I was never taught how to do this. This is so crazy to me. So those are some needs that I have that doing them fills me up. I enjoy it. It's fun. You need to really kind of sit down and think okay, what are my needs? What are my relationship needs? What do I need? Maybe I need a friend that loves to learn as much as I do. And that once a month we can meet up and take a class together or go listen to a lecture or go visit a museum. And because that fills me up, right? We want to find relationships, that fill us up so that food isn't filling us up, right? We want to start learning how to meet the needs that we have without using food as an option. Because once we do that, then food really does take its appropriate place in our lives. But the doing this work now is why, is how we make food less important. Okay. And so we need to evaluate our current self and understand our needs and what they are. So where in your relationships are they lacking? Maybe you need more romance in your life. Maybe you need more fun. Maybe you need less fun. Maybe you've been having a little too much fun and now maybe you need some more discipline. So maybe finding a friend who is disciplined, that hits goals, that has a focus, and maybe you can learn from them some things that are coming that are coming up for you, that you can really learn from them. So really what I want you to do is take time this week, find what's lacking in your life as far as relationships go, and really other needs too. It doesn't just have to be relationships. Like maybe you need time to be quiet and just read a book at night and then help you calm down. Maybe you're introverted and you're on the go all the time and you're wearing yourself out. This is why knowing who you are is so important, because then you know what your needs are. So you need to start evaluating your needs. And here's the thing. No one's coming to rescue you from the situations in your life. Everybody's kind of busy with their own lives, right? You need to be able to understand, like, you're responsible for your life and you have agency in your life to be able to get your needs met without having to spend a lot of money, without a lot of time, but like getting to know yourself and getting to know your needs, and then kind of taking it on yourself to be able to make sure those needs get met. So, and what I mean by this is not saying like, well, I have a need for more fun and spontaneity, but then you get mad at your husband for not being more fun and spontaneous to help you meet that need. What I'm saying is take it upon yourself to get that need of spontaneousness and fun. So you be the one to initiate the fun and spontaneity. Don't wait for someone else to come along and knock on your door and say, okay, I'm the fun friend that you've been looking for, right? Go out and be proactive and like really look for those people to get your needs met. Take the initiative. So if you're feeling lonely and a need of yours is friendship and you're feeling very lonely, don't just sit there and wallow in your loneliness. Go find someone else who's lonely and be the initiator and say, hey, you want to get together and have a cup of tea? Do you want to read this book along with me and then we could talk about it once a week, even if it's just on Zoom or whatever, right? Like you have to take the initiative, find out what your needs are, and then really kind of go ahead and strategize and find ways to get those needs met. And so here's some prompts that you can ask yourself. What do I want more of in my life? Okay. I think we kind of touched a little bit on that, but also what do I want less of? And again, like if life is chaotic for you, maybe you want less chaos. Right? And what does that look like for you? What does less chaos look like? Is it maybe eliminating a lot of extracurricular activities or saying no a couple times in your life, in your week, to give you less chaos? Also, a question you can ask yourself is, what fills me up, right? What energizes me? What do I really love doing? Like when it's over, I have more energy. I feel better. I feel enthusiastic. I feel really good. And then also take that question and now figure out what drains me. And I'll give you a perfect example. I absolutely, this year in particular, am enjoying our homeschool co-op. And I'm not sure if it's because I'm coming out of COVID and like the whole COVID lockdown that's been going on for a while. But in years prior, the co-op that we would go to on a Friday. So if you don't homeschool, so a co-op is where a group of moms get together and we come up with classes and we either hire teachers to teach those classes or we fill in the gaps and teach the classes ourselves. So for example, our homeschool co-op that we go to is a fine arts co-op where we hire actual artists to come in and teach the kids. They take pottery, they take sculpture, they take acrylic, they take drawing. We have a theater teacher, and then we have also musicians that come in and teach the children. And while, the kids are in some classes, we also have a preschool program, but then so there's some gaps in the day, and so the moms can fill in some of the gaps. So some moms are really great at, like we have a few doctors there, so they teach like anatomy and physiology for the high schoolers, or, I teach a cooking class for the little kids, or I did in years past. This year I'm not doing that, but just depends on like where the needs are. So for me, I am an introvert. And so that one day a week being out and about would totally drain me. And once I knew that about myself and knew like, okay, at the end of that day on a Friday, I am totally wiped out. Like I am really like, I just need a cup of tea and I just need to sit on the couch and just relax and veg after, 7 hours of being with other people's kids and helping with the preschool program and cooking. And it's just a lot. It's a long day, right? So knowing that about myself, that I know that drains me. So going forward from there, once I identified, okay, this is very draining to me. What can I do to make this situation better? Obviously, it's something important that we need to do, but I need to make it work for me. And the answer was we take less classes and we're not there as long. And I didn't volunteer to teach as many classes as I had in the past. So it was like a nice compromise. But I would have never been able to identify the need of having a more relaxed schedule if I hadn't sat down and actually considered, okay, like what is draining me and how can I make it work? No one is going to create the schedule for me and say, I think this schedule that you've had in the past is a little too draining. I'm going to make it lighter for you. That's not going to happen. I need to take the agency and say, you know what? I need a shorter day there and I need less responsibility as far as teaching goes there. And then create that in my life and then play that out. And I'll tell you, I'm so thankful I did. I always say like, thanks, past Katie. Thanks for thinking of that. Because now I'm living in the result I created. And I really look forward to Fridays. We take 4 classes and then we're home. I don't have to worry about packing lunches. And, we're out the door by 8. We're home by 1. And it's a much easier day and much more enjoyable. And I'm like thankful for myself that I thought of that ahead of time. And now instead of dreading Fridays and not looking forward to having to be out all day, I look forward to it now. And I look forward to the friendships that I've created there and the relationships I have there. So I just want you to start thinking like what drains you. And then even if it's something that you really can't eliminate, which obviously I couldn't eliminate that from my life, but like how can you tweak it and make it work as best as possible? So one of the good questions to ask in that situation would be like, what opportunities are available to me right now? So even if the situation you can't change, you can say, okay, what are the opportunities I have available to me right now to make this situation tolerable, and then work with it. You will find your self-esteem goes through the roof when you're able to problem solve like this and get your needs met and that you're able to meet them. And it takes such a pressure off of other people then having to meet your needs for you. Especially like if you're married and you're expecting your husband to to meet so many of these needs that you have, no one person can. And that puts a lot of pressure on them. And you're constantly frustrated or constantly resentful or disappointed in them because they're not meeting your needs. It's really not their job to meet all the needs that you have. You need to figure out what they are, and then you need to come up with strategies to best get them met, and not put that burden on them. And I think you'll find that you have much healthier, happier relationships when you do it that way. And so the last question is, what are the next steps to get your needs met? So that would mean, like I just walked you through, for me, I needed less time at the co-op, so what would my next steps be? All right, well, I need to, when the schedule comes out, I need to schedule myself less. I need to make sure that we're not there as long, and I need to strategize with the kids' schedule and make sure that they get exactly what they need without compromising their education, but also make sure that I'm not overwhelmed and like really burned out by the end of the day. Because when you burn out, then you really are good for nothing. And then the result is not going and doing anything, right? Not even going at all. So, and that's not what we wanted. So those are what I want you to think of when it comes to relationships. And with this podcast episode, think of your future self, right? Come up with a very detailed plan on who you want you to be. Okay. So where is future Katie? What is she doing? Who's she spending time with? How's she feeling? What is she wearing? How does she look? What's she eating? Is she in control? Or is she feeling out of control? Is she still struggling? What is she doing to make her life awesome? It's really like the future ideal version of yourself, right? And then I want you to think of your past self, then consider how you got to where you are currently. What beliefs and decisions led you to where you are. Make peace with them. And start looking for beliefs that you have and how to identify them and how to start tweaking them. And then take a look at your current self, figure out what your needs are, and then figure out ways to get those needs met. And come up with strategies. What are your next steps to get those needs best met? So you have a little bit of homework to do this week when it comes to the relationship you have with yourself. But this is really foundational. We take a deep dive of this in the Health and Wellness Blueprint, which I made it only $1 to get the basic foundational classes to get you started. And there are advanced classes in there that go into a very deep dive of this. So if this is something you find interesting or helpful, I encourage you, go and enroll in the Health and Wellness Blueprint. I do not think you'll be disappointed. We do a lot of thought work in there, really getting to know yourself, being able to do this. Because like I said, once you figure out your needs, then the urge to eat, the desire to eat, the food part of your life that has been so drawing to you, it just simply becomes less important. And then as a byproduct, the weight just starts to come off. And there's no deprivation, there's no drama. It's just you're living a life that you finally are intentional about instead of just reacting to life and then using food to cope with it. It really is a better way to approach. And that's why I always say diets really aren't that important, because you know how to eat healthy. If you're a yo-yo dieter or a chronic dieter, you know the right food to eat. You know all the diet rules, all the healthy eating rules. Like, that's not where you're lacking. You're lacking in the mental psychology part of it. And that's exactly what we teach you inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint. So if this resonates with you, get in there yesterday. We meet every Monday at 10. We go live. You can ask me questions. It's a group coaching call. You just join whenever you want. And the link is right on healthwellnessandchocolate.com. And you can get in for $1. So, and get the workbook, the user's manual workbook, and get the 9 foundational classes and the ebook, How to Eat Like Your Skinny Friends, to get you started. I tried to make it as the lowest barrier possible for you to get started on your wellness journey. So I really hope to see you inside. All right. In the meantime, have an awesome week, and I will catch up with you next week. All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.